So something I found out this weekend really is that booktube is a thing, and I'm gonna start doing some stuff on it because I am a big reader. Can you see? I wonder if you can see my bookshelf. You can't, but you can see all the pile of books. That's my TBR pile is the lingo, which we'll talk about in a future video. But today we're gonna talk about this one by Rich Karlgaard, Late Bloomers. Let's look at it. So the premise of late bloomers is that much of society today really looks at early success as the only metric, right? If you are not succeeding already in kindergarten to get into the best college, or to get into the best, whatever, kindergarten to get into the best grade school, to get into the best middle school, to get into the best yada, yada, yada college, to get the best job, then you're just not going to do it. And the truth is that a lot of people really don't fall onto this train. I myself didn't really start the career I'm in until I was 30, and I'll be turning 40 in about a month, right? Probably like 2 weeks after you see this, or a week after you see this, I'll be turning 40, early February. So this book is all about people who bloom late and the advantages that they have and the things that they're really good at that early success people aren't. Now, the definition of a late bloomer, according to Karlgaard, is, we'll read it from the notes. A late bloomer is someone that fulfills their potential later than expected, sometimes with talents that weren't even visible at first. That's page 14. For those who are just watching this for the first time, since it's the first video, in fact, you'll actually find a lot of citations in the written version of this on my site. If you're interested in specific pages that pertain to what I'm saying, I've cited most of them in the written version. Structurally, the book is broken down into 4 kind of main sections, 4 main themes. Chapters 1 and 2 are how we got to this early bloomer or early success, like as a standard that we should be going for. Chapter 3 explains the neuroscience behind later success, late bloomers, and what they're good at. And then chapter 4 explains the specific gifts that late bloomers have that early success people just won't have, in part because they don't have the experience. But we'll come to that. Now, similar to a book, You Are Awesome, which I read earlier this year and I did not do a video review of, although I will link the actual review written on my site in the show notes, in the description of this. So similar to You Are Awesome, where Neil Pasricha, we'll say, I don't know how to say his last name, he claimed that we are building a society of porcelain dolls, was his term. A society that can't deal with failure. And that's similar to what Late Bloomers talks about here, that people on the early success train, they have never encountered failure, and so that when they hit failure, they just break really easily. They're brittle from the start because they haven't hit failure. Whereas late bloomers have hit failure lots of times, right? They didn't get into that kindergarten. They didn't get into grade school. Their SAT scores were low, so they had to go to a 3rd-tier school or something like that. So they are more, we'll come to this again, resilient in the long term because they've had to hit failure as they go. Another main idea here is that we just don't let kids be kids. And you actually see that again in Kids These Days by, can I read it? Malcolm Harris. Kids These Days by Malcolm Harris. You actually see that there too. And again, there'll be a link to that written one in the show notes. And if you want to see any of these that I've talked about that I say there's not a video for, let me know and I will do a video for them at some point. But the point there is that we don't let kids be kids because we force them into success. So you can't just go play hockey for fun on the streets. You have to go play hockey or some other sport to succeed, to pad your resume for college later. You need to go, you don't volunteer just because you want to. You volunteer because you want to, pad your resume again, look more appealing for college. That's why you actually do these extracurricular activities, but never just for fun. We don't just go have fun. One of the other themes in kids these days is that we don't let kids get out on their own either. And you'll see that also in Leaders Eat Last, I think. We'll come to this maybe. But that we don't let kids go out and fail. And so we have emerging adolescents or emerging adulthood now. So that's another thing that we talk about. They also talk about, because we don't let kids play a lot, we're pushing towards SAT scores. Also brought up for me, Malcolm Gladwell did a great revisionist history episode about the LSAT. And what the LSAT demonstrates is really that you can take a test like the LSAT well. That's it. It doesn't predict anything else. So that was an interesting kind of side note that didn't come direct out of this book, but the ideas lined up between late bloomers and that Malcolm Gladwell revisionist history episode, linked in the description. Well, and then Karlgaard moves into like a kinder mode of development. So like, instead of saying if you're not succeeding by the time you're 12, you're just written off, and this is where he comes into the emerging adulthood or the pre-adulthood idea, where he says that the mid 20s into the early to mid 20s is really where you're starting to discover yourself and starting to look for yourself and decide what you're good at and where you can excel. And this is also what lines up with Leaders Eat Last by Simon Sinek. That one I will review in a future video. I will review Leaders Eat Last in a future video. Now, to this idea of this new emerging adulthood, I actually wonder, is it because we haven't let teenagers fail? I remember when I was a kid, right, I got caught drinking beer at the park and the cops came by and took the beer and said, go home. And that was about it. Whereas now, you get caught drinking beer at the park, you're arrested, your parents are called. There's a whole lot more consequence to, I suppose, a minor indiscretion. And so kids don't get to test out what being an adult is like. I've been talking to a friend who's got like a 13-year-old and they're like, oh, it must be nice to let them like ride down one street to see their friend. It's a long street, maybe a kilometer, right? What is that, 0.8 miles? But they said, oh no, we don't let them do that. It's like, that's way too bad. That's way too far. I'm like, seriously? Like, it's literally, there's a bike lane down there, but they don't want to let their kid get out and learn things. I think that as I let my 9-year-old along with her 11-year-old friend go ski the mountain together, that they just go ski. And yeah, my friend's parents are around, right? My friends are around, but we're on the bunny hill. I'm not anywhere near her to offer any support. Occasionally, they've crashed and had to get themselves out, or another adult has come by and helped them. They've had to ask for it. So my thought is that I think that we're handicapping our children long-term and creating fragile, actually see this in You Are Awesome as well, fragile people by not giving kids opportunity to fail early. Now, the strengths of late bloomers is really in many ways lines up with the book Range as well. Range is by David Epstein. And Range is about getting diverse experience and how diverse experience helps teams succeed and helps you succeed. And that's really what late bloomers is proposing near the end, that one of the strengths of late bloomers is that they have range. They have lots of varied experience so that they can bring more to the table. Another key strength of late bloomers, according to Karlgaard, is that they have more compassion and empathy because they've hit failure so much. They weren't on the fast track to success. When their colleagues, when they see other people having issues, they're ready to jump on board and help them. They have empathy for these problems that other people are having, and they are not afraid to help. So that's good. I mean, we want to be empathetic, and this is something that late bloomers can do better, according to Karlgaard, than early achievers, because early achievers just never had opportunity to fail. They were never allowed to fail. They didn't fail. And so when failure comes up later, they're just fragile. Now, the final strength that I'm going to highlight is that late bloomers have more wisdom. And that's simply because they have more range. They have more experience to bring to the table, right? So I could talk about, I would say I'm a late bloomer, but I could talk about like my time in the live performance theater space, or my time guiding, or when I worked at burger shops, or when I was in the food service industry and served banquets of 300. Or the maintenance crews I was on, the landscaping I did, the brickwork I've done, the electrical, the plumbing, the building houses, right? There's a lot of varied experience. So in theory, someone who is a late bloomer, when they encounter problems later, when they encounter problems on their team and their business and whatever, they just have a wider wealth of experience to draw on because they have more varied experience, because they tried lots of things trying to figure out where they fit. So the final thing I'm going to always talk about is Should You Read Late Bloomers by Rich Karlgaard, or whatever book I'm going to talk about. And I'm going to say that I enjoyed the book. I enjoyed the writing. He had good citations. That's something I hate. And when I see a book and it's basically like, so a study says, and there's no citation for it, it's a stupid book. Don't even have something to back you up. I'm not into just opinion. I want to see a study, and occasionally I'll track down the studies and like read them myself, but not always. I didn't do any in this. In part because it's aligned with a few of the other books that I've read recently, and the ideas seem very parallel, say to Range, to Kids These Days, to Leaders Eat Last. Those books all seem to be traveling down a very similar path. You Are Awesome as well, another one traveling down a similar path. So I like that. The style was good. It didn't get too heavy into research, and it did cite what it said. So I would say that if you are worried, or if you're interested in finding out what like later success looks like, what people do how they succeed later in life, then this is a good book, and I would recommend it. If you're interested in getting it, you can find it below in the description, a link on Amazon, and maybe on Book Depository if they approve my affiliate account in time. And they are affiliate links, although nobody gave me this book. I just bought it because I was interested in it. So that's it. If you like this, you can hit subscribe. For me, you're going to get some book stuff, you're going to get some tech stuff, and that's about it, really. And occasionally, that's not true, occasionally some ski videos or something, just because I'm interested in that. But I should be putting out a new book video once a week. That's to be focused towards book stuff. Probably Fridays. That's what I'm thinking. Probably Fridays you'll be getting a new book video. So hit subscribe below. Give me a thumbs up. If you have any other books you think I should read that go along with this, let me know. Ciao. Have a good one.